Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday, where I usually say Thursday for Medwell Unscripted, but today is Wednesday. I'm really excited. My name is April. I'm with Medwell Health and Wellness, and today we are having Medwell Unscripted, and we're talking about cannabis and your mental wellness. So I'm really excited to be here, and I have some wonderful ladies here to have a great conversation. We have Emily Waxman, our Director of Community Outreach.
Good morning.
And we have Kris Sparks. She is the owner of Relaxation Works. Good morning, ladies.
Morning.
All right, so just some housekeeping before we get into our conversation, friends. This is streaming live to Facebook and YouTube. So if you have any questions along the way or you have a personal experience you want to share with us, please do drop it in the comments. We will make sure that we provide website links and information along the way for you to grab. And if you are catching the replay, no worries. Definitely leave a comment and we will absolutely get back to you. So let's get started. I want to do some introductions. So Emily, why don't you tell our friends about what you're doing in the community and wait till you hear what's going on. Emily has been really, with the change of, as we're kind of talking about how the pandemic has affected mental health, Emily's really starting to ramp up and spend a little bit more time in the community, which is a great opportunity. So tell a little bit about what you're up to these days, Emily.
Of course, April. So I have, now that we are slowly but surely inching our way out back into the world again, I have been able to start, I know, it's so nice. I have been able to start setting up tables and being at the dispensaries throughout Massachusetts. So you'll find me with my information and my table, and I am always there to be able to talk to patients and non-patients alike, so that if you have any questions about the medical program, I am always there and happy to answer. And that is probably my favorite part about being the Director of Outreach here at Medwell, is that I'm able to provide some information to you, which is so important, so that you can understand if having your medical card is the right thing for you and why you would want to get your medical card. And then I also get to meet people like our wonderful friend Kris Sparks, who we have here today, and let us hear about her journey with medical cannabis and just hearing about relaxation work. So I'm so excited to be able to have you here today, Kris, so that we get to be able to talk to you and let all the folks there know about your special journey and give them also some more information about medical cannabis and obtaining their card.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to be here. I always like talking about emotions.
Well, of course, I have to tell everybody. I have to tell our friends in the audience. Just by when Kris came into, we kind of have a green room here, and just her voice alone is relaxing and calming. And then she starts drinking cucumber water, which is like, I need some of that to relax for the day. So, Kris, tell us a little bit about yourself and your business, and
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm so used to just talking about my business that sometimes I can get very single-minded to that. So I really want to make sure that I talk a lot more about like the mental health and like actually me personally and what my business has to do with that. I think that if I look at the mental health piece of it, I have always suffered a lot from loneliness and feeling like I had to do things on my own. And so when that happens, you tend to become very self-reliant and driven, which I am still and continue to be. And I really think that's what put me on the path to my success. I will tell you, I feel from my point of view as of right now, things come a little bit more difficult to me sometimes. I have to read things multiple times. I have to understand things multiple times over and over again. If I were to really look at it, I probably have some sort of ADHD of sorts. I'm not a medical doctor, by the way, and nothing that I'm putting out there is for that. And I think that if you need to look into your own mental health, seeking out a professional is definitely the way to go. I myself have done that. But if I really took a step back and paid attention, it just was like always such a struggle. And I would create these coping mechanisms to seem normal. Like, I wouldn't tell people that I just was in a conversation with an hour for you and I really don't even know what you said. Like, that was really a secret for me. Even talking to clients, sometimes I would ask the same question because 5 minutes prior I forgot their answer. And that's because my head is always in a different space and not being able to fully concentrate. So a lot of that, I feel like, just it created this habit. Now I'm 40 and the pandemic happened. And I just was like, I noticed before the pandemic, it was getting worse and worse for me. I was actually looking back at some of my journals before I came on here, and I don't journal a lot, but I journal enough that I have information. And one of the things of my goal was to just get out of bed. Like, and when I take a step back and I separate myself from me to like my accomplishments of life, starting a company, you know, when I was 18, being able to have a successful company, starting with 5 clients, building to a full clientele within a year, and then now purchasing years later the building that my business is in. I am successful when it comes to that, but I don't feel successful. I always felt like a loser. I felt like it was never good enough. I felt like I wasn't perfect enough at it. And I didn't think I was a perfectionist. I'm like a chill, cool, easy, laid back girl. And as I was talking to my therapist, who, by the way, has been life-changing for me, this therapist, I've probably seen in my life 15 therapists. But this therapist, we've been doing a lot of EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, which is like tapping on points on your body and like saying affirmations and things like that. And I'm going to tell you, I'm a science girl. And when I was like, I don't know if I believe in that, but I'm also a massage therapist. And I do know about intuition and that sixth sense that you have. I would be working on a client, by the way, and all of a sudden I would get like a pinpointed pain that came on real quick and real intense, to the point that it like shocked me out of my comatose massage state. That because as massage therapists, we get relaxed too, by the way. It's a form of medicine.
You should.
For sure. It's a workout, but it's nice. So it was like things like that would happen. And then I would say to the client, oh, is something going on with you in this area? And they would say, yes. How did you know that? So, and then sometimes I'd ask that and it wouldn't go that way. So it's like, that sixth sense that you have, I wasn't connected to it, if that makes sense. And what it really was is as time went by and as I grew the business, I stopped taking care of myself and I felt like a fraud. And that was my secret. My secret was I'm supposed to be a stress relief advocate. I'm stressed out and anxious to the max. I'm supposed to really promote self-care. I do zero self-care, to the point that now I'm saying I don't even want to get out of bed. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that went on for months. And I've actually never really admitted that publicly. My husband knows that, but it was a real struggle for me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what happened because it was like an out-of-body experience. It came out of the blue. But did it really? I think I was numbed for years and didn't notice it. And then finally, when the pandemic hit, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I can't be in this state. I can't keep living this double life of like promoting this, but then not doing it for myself. And I fully now understood what it meant to like put action into words. I never really got that in my personal life. I knew what it meant in business. And I could never figure out the key component to switching that. And I think that was the key for me. And so I've been doing a lot of soul searching, probably since about October, and really putting it into action like January, February. Losing weight, that's another thing that a part of your self-care, taking care of yourself well, and like not understanding why I can't get past something that has such control over me. And to me, it is all about the mental health. All the information that I'm consuming and I'm working with is all about what you think about yourself upstairs, right? And we don't talk about it a lot because I think, especially as women, we we are just put on this, like, you're just supposed to do it this way, and that's what you do, and you don't complain. All right.
So
And
true.
I'm even coming from a place of, I don't have my own children. So I don't have those pressures.
Well, you have 3 fur babies though.
Well,
so
yes, I do.
there's pressure from that.
Yeah, which you might hear in the background. And I run a successful company, and I'm my own boss. So I don't have someone telling me what to do. So even with all that, I still feel that pressure of how we're supposed to be a good friend, how we're supposed to be a good wife, how we're supposed to be a good community member, all this stuff. And it just was like, I think I got to the point that I was like, it just broke me. It broke me to the point that I could not go on. And what I did is I did exactly what I'm doing here today. I vocalized my suffering and I sought help. With all that said, how cannabis comes into play, that's all kind of the current. Sure. A year ago, I decided that part of my self-care journey, which I didn't realize I was starting then, was to really, really probably 2 years ago, work on my sleep. So if you can imagine anyone with anxiety and I'm going to say probably depression, you don't always sleep well. And if you don't have good sleep, you really can't restore the body. Now, I've heard these words my whole entire life. I'm in this field. I get it. Right. So I would do all the things. I would journal. I had an eye pillow thing. I had magnesium cream. I had CBD cream. I had all these things that I would do. The one thing I couldn't kick was getting on your phone like right before you go to bed. That's like definitely what I do, because by the time I get home, it's almost sometimes 9, 10 o'clock at night. And I'm going to bed at like 11:30. So that's my time to kind of like catch up. But with all that said, I definitely found that, can you guys hear that? The dog.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
I found that I needed to really make sleep a priority. So that's what I started doing. And I was getting frustrated that these things weren't working. So I met Gina from Commonwealth Health over at Berkeley Beer in Taunton, which I love that place. Well, I love both. I love all those people. And she was just like, yeah, let's chat or whatever. And she's the one that really helped me introduce me to Emily. And that's when I started taking 5 milligram edibles at night. And I was petrified. Only because I've never actually smoked cannabis ever in my life, and I'm 40. I've never been around it. I mean, I've been around it, but I've never like participated. So I didn't know what to expect. And I mean, I'm calling my cousin who's an avid smoker, and I'm like, what do I do? What's it gonna be like? And she's like, you need to calm down. But that's
and Kris, you know what? And I don't mean to cut you off, but it brings up a great point of that. For people with anxiety, right? So that's exactly what the anxious mind is thinking, like, yes. Oh my God, what is this going to do to me? Am I going to freak out? What's going to happen?
Yeah. And I can even, telling the story, I'm feeling my chest get a little bit tight, honestly. And it's like, okay, calm down. By the way, you guys, this is an Apollo. And I have this on right now, which is helping, but you do it through an app and it helps your nervous system kind of like regulate, like, okay, wait a minute. Great. So taking that like nice deep breath like I just did, and not being embarrassed to do it. And I just need to take this minute for a second, because I can definitely feel my heart pounding now. So things like that will bring, my anxiety is like that. It comes out of nowhere. And so when you're in situations, sometimes you're like, your anxiety just pops up. And then that's how you come and respond from that anxious state. Right. And I never was able to get myself back to that anxious state. So anyway, going back to the edibles, I started taking 5 milligrams. And once I started sleeping like through the night, and that was my issue. I could fall asleep, but I'll wake up at 2 a.m. and then I'll be up till 6. Now, I got to run a business. I even turned down. I had a prominent lawyer in the community reach out and say, hey, we're doing this other networking group because I'm part of the chamber. And I love networking groups. I love being a part of the business community. It's so special to me. And I had to turn it down because they met at 7 a.m. And I just, for about 5 to 6 years, did not make any appointments before 12 noon. Because if I had those type of nights, which were happening sometimes 5 to 6 days a week, I could not be functional.
Yeah.
So, and I am a really big believer in natural, and I just did not want to take sleeping pills. That was just me personally.
Sure.
I think they work for people that they work for, but for me, I just wanted to try something else. And if this didn't work, I would have tried that for sure. But now being in the position that I'm in and seeing all the things that I'm doing that I wasn't doing before, I'm like, oh, now I can see why that wasn't working in my favor.
Right.
So anyway, I started with that, and then I started thinking about smoking a couple of months later. It took me a couple of months, guys. Like, I was like really baby steps. And I would take an edible maybe like 3 times a week and be like, oh my God.
So I guess the bigger question, so when you took the edible, how was your sleep? Was it better?
Yeah. So that's what ended up happening is I started sleeping through the night and not waking up in the middle of the night. And it was so unpredictable. With that said, if I had something that happened during the day that was like really jarring to my emotional self or my business or my personal life, that would definitely, my brain, I guess, would never shut off. I would fall asleep, but I would wake up thinking about that. Right. So I learned that your thoughts can really hijack your body and your goals. And I wanted my thoughts to be well. I wanted my thoughts to really work for me and not against me. And literally, it felt like always they were working against me. And then when the pandemic happened, from a business point of view, the way that we do business, if you're a successful business owner, you're always planning things out 6 to 12 months in advance. You are the visionary of your business. You have to see what's coming before anyone else does. Right. And when you make those decisions, they're probably going to go against your current state. So if you let your employees know and your customers know about something that's coming down the road, they might not understand that. So a lot of times you're alone in that process of trying to figure that out. And when Corona hit, you couldn't plan anything because no one knew what to happen. And we would try to plan and then it would hit us in the face, and we would try to plan. And so it was like nothing was working in business. My personal life felt like it was like falling apart. I really was having a hard time getting out of bed. And this was the kicker for me. You would think all that, like, okay, you definitely need help. That I was handling. I was like, well, I guess I'll just stay in bed today. I'll go in later and like clock in my 4 hours and then I'll clock out. And I would get to work and be like, why is everyone else happier here and not me? That was a turning point. And the biggest turning point for me was by 9:30 in the morning, I had already cried for an hour and I didn't know why. So it was really bad. And I'm talking, this is in the last like 3 months. So the fact that now I feel like I'm in a different place with that. What happened with the cannabis, I know I'm like going kind of all over the place here, guys, with my story, so I apologize.
That's okay.
But ask me questions if you want to. I'm really an open book. When I started smoking, what ended up happening is I had what some therapists consider a dark soul of the night situation, where when I smoked, my true self, who I am and the core of my being, would emerge. And I hated her. I hated myself. And to hate yourself is a really low feeling like you can't get out from underneath your own efforts, your own inability. And I just like, it broke me. It broke my mental state of sorts, but it broke me in a good way, that it broke my patterns of what I have been doing for all those years. Those habits and patterns are what got me to where I was. And for me, smoking was like the key that unlocked it. Like I was able to access these emotions that I had not been able to access before. And I didn't know why it only happened when I smoked. And the only thing I can think of is it really kind of lowered my inhibitions of my own self, or what I thought was supposed to be my life. And it really put me on this path of questioning things. And you know what happened during this whole situation, as I kept feeling like I was getting better and going to therapy and really working on myself, losing 30 pounds, really getting to the point of like getting control over that part of my life, getting control of my stress. The disease to please is what came up. And that is what I found out about myself, is I have that disease to please. I'm a people pleaser to the point that I don't want to disappoint anyone. And you can't keep that. You cannot keep that going over and over again. It won't work.
Well, and that's part of anxiety disorder too. That's definitely natural.
And that was part of like figuring out, now I see all the little patterns that I've created for my life to cover up, to suppress the feeling, I love that numbness feeling, that disassociation from myself or what's around me. And I don't want to do that. I don't mind feeling that. And I don't mind doing that in a positive way, but I don't want to do that as like my only choice because I can't handle life. Does that make sense? Like, so now I forget where I left off.
No. So I just want to jump in here because I think, one of the things that you hear more and more on the news, and I have a friend that, with the pandemic and things changed, right? So I actually had a memory, and, Facebook is a wonderful thing and gives you memories, right? So I feel like sometimes I post things there so I can remember it next year, right? And not lose track of it in my phone. But anyways, and it was a year, we were just at a little over that year mark where we all kind of went into lockdown. And it was kind of one of those surreal feelings of, wow, this is crazy. Like we can't, leave the house, or we can't do this. We can't go to the grocery store. How are we going to function? But at the same time, I remember the feeling of being, almost like it's like a never-ending snowstorm, right? So like when it's a snow day in the beginning, right? Like, oh, how long is this really going to last? Because we didn't really know the severity and the reality. We started to quickly, unfortunately. That being said, I have a friend who literally, her mental wellness deteriorated over time. And you see this on the news, and there's concerns about kids and going back to school. But now that we're at the end of the pandemic, hopefully we're still in it, but as we're transitioning to the next phase, right? The next phase to the kind of freedom, she's really struggling with, now she went from out and working in a workplace to working home, but now that whole transition is adding a whole nother element of anxiety and like fear. And so now these things that she definitely has always been a little bit anxious, a little bit depressed. But now as we transition, like all these other things have manifested, right, over this lockdown. And I know that's the same for so many out there. And it's a scary feeling. And I think one of the things like you talked about is you do need to seek help. You need to seek medical help and really recognize when that help is, and then look at ways to treat that health. Because, I'm a huge advocate for cannabis and how it's a natural, it's a natural plant. Whereas sometimes in the mental health community and doctors in general, it's pharmaceuticals, right? So then you kind of have to make a decision, but you have to have these conversations. So, so Kris, tell me a little bit about when you, if you don't mind sharing, when you sought out help and you had conversations with your medical provider about, whatever, if you decided to take pharmaceuticals, and of course there's no judgment around that because people need to be well. And I want to state that I have no judgment against that, but I want, did you decide to take pharmaceuticals? When did you start having the conversation about, what, I feel like cannabis might be able to help? And I love that your first initial interaction with cannabis was sleep, because it does make a difference. And sleep is if you don't sleep, some people can go a few days without sleeping, but then you crash, right? Like your mental, your focus, there's so much around sleep. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I just want to make another comment about the sleep thing. It's so easy to say like, oh, I wanted to sleep better. The reason why I needed to sleep better was because my brain stopped functioning. My memory issues were becoming like, I felt like I possibly was going down having Alzheimer's. It was that bad. Full blown conversations, no memory of. Not remembering what I did the day before. Now, I know we all laugh about it as we get older, blah, 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 but it's really concerning when you're in your 30s that you can't remember stuff.
Right.
That's not normal. And I thought it was normal. And I probably was like that for a couple of years, but it just got to the point that it was like, it was jarring to me. And I remember my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and I remember the pain that she went through when the moment she realized, oh, I don't know who I am. That to me was so, and that's what I started to recognize. And I said, I need to change this. So I think that for me, that's why I sought help, because it was really, I expelled myself literally to having nothing left. I was a shell of a body of sorts. And when I found cannabis, I found that not only did it unlock things for me, but it really helped me on my goals that I was working on. So I have a couple strands that I really like. I probably tried 6 of them. I know there's like a lot out there, but I'm kind of the type of person that once I find something, I'm like, that's good. I love the like creativity it would bring me. I get a lot of ideas when I smoke, which is kind of interesting. And I really like that because I used to get that all the time, but because of
I know a lot of people who feel that way.
I still believe I'm meant to invent something. I've told my husband this for 10 years now. So I have like a notebook of ideas that I'm like just waiting for it to come, whether I'm 100 or 50, whatever. And, so I like N1, F1, which is a strand that I like to smoke that is really, doesn't make me sleepy, but makes me nice and relaxed. And Cindy 99, she is my girlfriend. We just have a love affair. She definitely gives me a little bit more of that like laid back feeling. And I love it. I love feeling free from my anxiety. Yeah. And now what cannabis has done for me is shown me, Kris, this is how you can be when you don't have a tight chest. This is what your body is supposed to feel like. You know, getting my cortisol levels checked, making sure that things inside my body are really up to par so I can keep healing and working on myself. And I did make a telehealth call with my practitioner, my doctor, for some sort of anxiety medication, because that's how low it was for me. And it was really hard for me to do that because I had my own stigma attached to it. And the other thing that cannabis has shown me is truly seeing someone else's point of view. Like I truly, ooh, she scared me. I truly feel like it has given me the ability to feel other people's point of view and truly see theirs, not hear it and just say, oh, okay, but truly understand it and be like, oh, I get that. And let's see what I can do to make that situation better for you while still honoring myself, versus what I would do before is, what can I do to fix? Oh, I'll listen. All I did was listen to the problem this far. It only got this far, and then I would just use my hands to fix the problem. Versus I listened, I folded my hands, I quietly said, okay, and then I asked more questions and gave breathing room to the situation. That's really helped me too. So anyway, going back to calling my doctor, I ended up canceling that appointment because I didn't want to go through with the medication. I really wanted to try natural. That really is who I am. And the reason why I canceled was not because I didn't think it was going to work. It was because I wanted to be true to who I was. And I was sick and tired of doing what everyone else thought I should do. And I'll tell you to that story, because my husband is very supportive of me, my business, my personal goals in life. I have a very supportive spouse. He saw me struggling so much that I think I've really freaked him out. I really, truly do. And he was the one that said, I really think you need to call you need to do something just for a while, just to get you going. So I did. And then that's when I started smoking a little bit differently at different times and trying to figure out what works for me. And it was working. And the other things that I was doing, not just the cannabis, because it wasn't all just cannabis, but it was a lot of the mental health and the stuff that I was telling myself, that I was listening to, that I was watching, the words that I say to myself, like, if I didn't do something correctly on habit, I would just say, well, that was dumb. That was stupid. You should have known better. Like, I didn't have grace for myself. I didn't have understanding for myself. And I think when you come from a home that you don't receive that, you create different patterns that build you to this person. Like, education was huge in my family life. And I dropped out of college twice because I was really bad at it. Like, fall asleep in class. Like, I would get D's. Why am I paying for this? I would try, but I couldn't do it. So I just knew innately I had to listen to myself. Like, this isn't going to work for you. And that's why I think that when it comes to mental health, we really sometimes get lost in other people's opinions and what other people tell us we should do. And you truly don't listen to your inner soul and be able to do the work. There's a psychologist that I follow on Instagram, and I'm actually in her program. It's called The Holistic Psychologist. And she talks a lot about like reparenting, meaning you are now your own parent, girlfriend. You are an adult. It's no one else's fault what's happened. It's no one else's whatever. It's all on you, and you need to lift yourself up. But while doing that, you don't have to be so rude to yourself. You can be kind and grace, giving grace to yourself and understanding and saying, you know what, you might not have done it the way that you normally would do it, but at least you tried. And I know that sounds so like, oh, everyone gets, and this is, I'm coming from my point of view, but like growing up, you didn't get participant awards. You just won.
Right.
So it's like the gray area. I'm so sick and tired of living in black and white. I really want to be in the gray. And I thought I was. That's probably the biggest thing for me, is I thought I was this like laid back, like, okay, easygoing person. And I wasn't. And for myself, I might have been on the outside, but for myself, I was very, very critical. And I think over time, that just catches up to you. And so for me, cannabis has really been a tool that I use with all the other tools that I'm using.
Right.
I now the type of podcasts that I listen to, the type of shows that I watch, or my structured time. I turned down a business venture the other day because I had to go on my daily walk. I would never do that before. Never. Because I feel like I'd be disappointing them, because for me, growing the business, by the way, is not for me. It's for the people that work for me. It's for the clients that we work with. It's too much work for it to be that beneficial for me, to be quite honest. I really see it as like, this is what I'm supposed to do in the world, but it also brings me such joy and love, and really being able to like be in that atmosphere all day is amazing. So yeah, I think we talked about a lot and probably went around a lot of stuff.
No, it was wonderful, Kris. And, I have to say too, when we connected again a month or two back, it was so wonderful when you reached out about your renewal appointment. It was like, it made me feel so good that you were able to, you put it so beautifully when you said, use this as part of your regime. Like this is in your toolbox for you to be able to access when you need that. And I think that it would be so wonderful if more folks out there really thought of it as that, and not looked at it as anything negative or this bad thing that I'm doing or guilt or shame. It should be used as part of, we especially for women, we have our normal routine of our beauty that we, wash our face and put our cream on, and we do these things for ourselves. And this should be part of that too. It's so important, what we're doing on the outside should also be done on the inside as well. It's so important, if not more important.
Yep. And I think sometimes it takes to the fabulous 40s to understand that as a gal.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
And I completely agree with what Emily's saying. I think there's such a stigma of things that come up in, especially in the cannabis industry. And I, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today, because there's so many people that feel this way, and they are afraid to voice it, or they're afraid to share it. They're afraid to share it outside of their very.
That's the difference. Yeah. I was one of them, and And I wanted to mention too, I don't mean to cut you off there, but what you said, Emily, something reminded me of that. It was really scary for me to start cannabis. This is part of my anxiety, which I am much more need control over things, which help me with my anxiety. Now that I see that I do that, I was really scared. I just was like, I would take it and just sit there like this, like for hours, like waiting, like, okay, what's gonna happen now? And this is what I want to say about mental health. You still need to do the things to go forward. And if you're anxious going through it, realize that, ask yourself, is this a goal of mine that I want to go towards? What outcome am I looking for? Yeah. And sometimes we just need to simplify it that way and just kind of allow what be will be. But there was a little bit of transition there for me. And if you think about it, I'm here now and I'm, I feel like I'm not on the other side of it. I still feel like I'm in it, but I don't feel like I'm in it. Right. Like when I couldn't get out of bed, you know what I mean? And there are people out there like right now probably watching this on their phone in bed because they can't get out of bed. Right. And I know what that feels like. And so the only thing I would say to you is put your shoes on and sit outside in the sun for 10 minutes. Yeah. If that's all you can do today, that's what I think you should do. So something small for yourself. Get up and just get a glass of water. Yeah. I mean, when I started walking, I was like, I have a heart condition, by the way. That's another thing is I have a heart condition that is unfixable. There is no medication that will fix it for me. There is no surgery. The only thing that fixes it is losing weight and exercising. And how long did I ignore that? And I was like, yep, because I was fine, because my body, all my blood number, everything was fine. I was healthy. And then it was like, didn't matter how healthy my body was, my mental health was not there. Right. And it was, it's just interesting to see how one thing can really put you onto a path of rainbows and gold. A true transformation. And you have to want that within yourself, and you have to want it even when you don't know how to do it. Sure. So even when I started that process with the cannabis, it was like, it took me, I'm going to say probably 8 months to start feeling comfortable with it. But again, that's me with someone who has anxiety and just who I am as a person. Someone else, they're like, oh my God, it took me like a day, and that's fine too. We're all different. That's the whole point. Right.
It's all a very individual journey for sure.
Yeah.
So as we kind of get to start to wrap up here, friends that are considering, I can relate to exactly what Kris is talking about. Just so you know, some of the qualifying conditions for a medical cannabis card in Massachusetts are anxiety, depression, sleep disorders. So if you're not sure if it's a good fit for you, please do stop by our website at medwellhealth.net, give us a call, and we're happy to answer any of your questions and see if it might be something that's helpful for you and getting a better night's sleep and relieving some of these symptoms. Kris, just one thing before we go, I do want you to share about your business and the services you offer. I dropped the link. So if you can quickly let everybody know about Relaxation Works, just to let them know where they can find you in Raynham and what you offer.
So real quick too, I just wanted to say to that point, the doctor, when I went with Medwell and I did a telehealth because it was during the pandemic to get my card. They were so helpful. Now, remember, I'm coming from having no idea other than buying it off the street. That's how you get it. All right. So I had no idea about like strains or sativa or whatever all that stuff is. And they were so helpful giving me the proper information of how to determine where to start. Not the whole book, just where to start. And that's what I needed. So I just want to shout out to the doctor. That was awesome. So
I'm so glad, because I do think that's where so many of our folks that are thinking about obtaining their medical card get nervous about, because they think, well, I'm going to, meet with this doctor and just going to the doctor anyway. I think any doctor we get a little anxiety about, and then to be speaking to a doctor that you really don't know, and you're not sure how the appointment's going to go, and what if they ask me all these things, or we just make ourselves completely crazy with all of the thoughts that we think. So it's so nice to hear that you had such a wonderful experience and that they were able to offer you at least a starting point as to where to begin on this journey. And I think that's all we're all looking for, is for at least someone to give us a little bit of guidance so that we can at least have a point of, you know, this is where I'm going to begin, and kind of see where that goes and make the adjustments as you need. So thank you so much for saying that. That's great.
Yeah. I think too, asking questions is so important. Being able to say, like, what about this? Even if you don't know what you're asking, ask the symptom that you're looking for. Say, or just say, this is my situation. What do you think? You know, Absolutely. Be open with your personal situation. Don't hide it. You know, I hid for so long about my anxiety, and, you know, I used to have panic attacks. So that's really, I thought anxiety was, well, if you have a panic attack, that is real anxiety. Right. I didn't know anxiety could have been what I was living for the last 20 years. Because I had not had a panic attack in years.
Sure.
But anyway, so Relaxation Works is in Raynham. We specialize in massage and skincare. I also own a skincare company where I formulate all the skincare. So it's all fresh, handmade. And we also have an infrared sauna where we work with pain relief, which is one of the things that I really like working with, because I do believe that the mind-body connection is so important, and a lot of pain comes out of emotions as well. And I'm also looking into bringing in some more EFT, which is that emotional freedom technique. It's really, truly helped me in my journey. And I actually do it when I smoke as well. I find that it helps kind of open up whatever is going on in me. And the more that you do it, the more that you feel it. So we might be offering some of those type of classes as well. So It's just, I love being at work. Awesome. I really do. I just love that the clients we have are amazing. The staff is amazing. We're in a beautiful setting. And it's nice that I get to do what I love. That's awesome. Even though of all the anxiety that I just talked about, I still loved it through all that. I got a little lost for a while.
Yeah. Okay. We all get a little lost sometimes.
Yeah.
Kris, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Thank you for our friends in the audience for tuning in. And if you are catching the replay, absolutely leave us a comment and we will get back to you. We will see you in a few weeks, and mark your calendars. 420 Day is coming up, and we have a special day of some great information plan for you. So details coming soon. Thanks again, ladies. Everybody, have a great day. And don't forget to stop by medwellhealth.net for all your medical cannabis needs, or if you have any questions, we are here to help. Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.